Hello and welcome. So, let's talk about what might just be the most important workplace safety rule out there, the one that isn't actually written down. We're going to dive into OSHA's powerful, unwritten rule that keeps people safe when there's no specific regulation for a unique danger. I want you to picture this. You're at your job and you see something that just feels, well, unsafe. But when you go to look it up, there's no specific OSHA rule that covers that exact situation. So what happens then? Is an employer just off the hook? It's a fantastic question, and it really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. And the answer to that question is a huge no. They are not off the hook. Why? Because OSHA has this incredible safety net built right into its foundation. It's specifically designed to catch all of those weird, unexpected, and unlisted dangers that can pop up in any workplace. And that safety net has a name. It's called the General Duty Clause. You can think of it as OSHA's universal catch-all safety rule. It's honestly one of the most important tools they have to make sure work environments are safe, especially when those super specific standards just don't exist. So here it is, the official language, pulled right from Section 5A1 of the Occupational Safety and Health Act. It requires employers to provide a workplace that is, and I quote, free from recognized hazards that are causing or are likely to cause death or serious physical harm. It seems simple, it sounds really broad, but that's exactly what makes it so incredibly powerful. Now let's zoom in on that one key phrase, recognized hazards. This is the absolute core of the whole thing. A hazard doesn't have to be listed in a 1,000-page rulebook to be a violation. If it's a known danger within that industry, or honestly, if it's just a common sense risk that people are aware of, it counts. This is what gives the clause all of its teeth. But here's the thing. OSHA can't just walk in, point at something, and say, that's a violation. To actually use the General Duty Clause, they have to prove their case. And they do that using a very specific 4-point test. Let's break down what that looks like. So, for a citation to actually stick, OSHA has to prove all 4 of these things. First, that a hazard really existed and employees were exposed to it. Second, that the hazard was recognized, which, again, means the industry knew about it or it was just plain obvious. Third, it had to be serious, something likely to cause severe injury or even death. And finally, and this one is crucial, that there was a feasible and useful way to fix it. An employer can't be held responsible for something that's literally impossible to correct. Okay, I know, that all sounds a little legalistic, doesn't it? A 4-point test, recognized hazards. So let's bring this down to earth. What does this stuff actually look like on the shop floor, or in a warehouse, or out on a construction site? Let's dig into some of the most common violations that get cited under the General Duty Clause. You'll see that a lot of these are what I'd call hazards hiding in plain sight, things that don't have their own little paragraph in the rulebook, but are absolutely recognized dangers. Let's start with equipment and vehicles. For instance, there might not be a specific OSHA rule that says you must wear a seatbelt on this 2018 model forklift. But does everyone recognize that a forklift tipping over is a deadly hazard? Yes. And is a seatbelt a feasible fix? You bet. Same thing goes for using a cell phone while driving a company truck or not using the safety latch on a crane. These are classic examples of recognized, correctable hazards. The clause also covers the environment that you work in. Think about dangers like the buildup of combustible dust, which is a known explosion risk in tons of industries, or maybe storing chemicals that could react violently right next to each other. Even things like working in extreme heat or cold without proper brakes, water, or protective gear. That falls under this general duty to protect employees from recognized harm. And finally, it applies to structures and procedures. You know that wobbly, damaged storage rack in the back of the warehouse? That is a recognized hazard. An uninspected boiler? Absolutely. And look at that last one, workplace violence. This is a perfect example of how this decades-old clause is being applied to modern, evolving risks. The argument is that an employer has a duty to take feasible steps to protect employees if a threat is recognized. So, as we start to wrap this up, it's pretty clear that the General Duty Clause is way more than just another rule. It really represents a fundamental shift in how we should all be thinking about safety. It's about moving beyond just a simple checklist of regulations. So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. Real safety isn't about memorizing a rulebook. It's about developing a culture of awareness. This clause empowers everyone, from the newest person on the team to the CEO, to identify and address hazards, whether they're written down somewhere or not. That right there is the safety net that holds everything else together. And that leaves us with one final thought to take with you. The next time you're at work, just look around. What's that common practice, that thing everyone just does, that might actually be a recognized hazard hiding in plain sight. Because just thinking that way, that's the first step to using this powerful safety net. Thanks for tuning in.